Scott Knight here, and Go Sports. Keith Simons, Wesleyan, on the women's side, assistant coach. Pleasure to have you on. Thanks for joining us today, Keith.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. It's really, really pleasure to be here.
So congratulations, right, over onto Wesleyan on the women's side. First season, this past season. Let's jump into it right away. Tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, your youth experiences as a player, positions you played, where you grew up. I know before we jumped on this call right here, we kind of crossed a little bit from the Albany area. So touch base on that for us.
That's right. Yeah, so grew up in Saratoga Springs, New York, upstate New York, and I had a really good youth experience. I think being a younger coach, I'm 32 now, I was kind of maybe one of the last groups as a youth player that really went through the town ball scenario before these premier clubs really exploded. So I grew up playing for Saratoga Springs town soccer. And the format back then was you travel 15 minutes to go play Clifton Park, Balsa Spa, Latham. So that was really fun, just from a competitive geographic standpoint. And then as I got older, I started to see the premier system starting to build itself up. It was kind of right before all the big showcase tournaments started blowing up. So in my later stages, U17s, 18s, I played for Blackwatch Soccer Club,
Nice.
Primarily in the Super Y setup. So that was the big thing back then, was Super Y. So after that, Super Y then had a format which was U20s, and I played that going in to college, and then certainly in the summers in college. So
you stayed with Blackwatch in the U20s?
Correct. Yep. Yeah. So Blackwatch.
Steve Freeman. Steve Freeman.
Yep,
no,
that's
no,
right.
Steve was an ex-teammate of mine, and Kirk Sinkins.
Definitely know those guys. Yep. That's awesome. Yeah. When I played for the U20s, that was the kind of system before what the USL is set up now, right? They have the PDL, but they also had kind of an in-between for the youth getting into the PDL and the USL system. So that was a really good experience playing in the summers in college. And it was just a combination of college guys from the area that would come back and play. So the level was super high, and that was a good experience. But I think the interesting part about my path was I had such a unique range of experiences. So the town soccer and my coach, I had an Ecuadorian coach who taught us all about the creativity and the passion for the ball and those types of things. And then as I got older, I had a coach named Dave McVeigh who really taught me the importance of the technical aspect of the game, being clean and understanding like the positional responsibilities and things like that. So I had a really wide range of experiences, which was helpful for me developing as a player. And then quite honestly, I had a few coaches who were not so great, and it taught me how to take the responsibility onto myself and learn the game a little bit that way. So I had a really, really wide range of experiences, which was awesome. Looking back at it now, I think it's easier to say that then. So then moving out of the youth system, I went to Manhattanville College, which is in Westchester County. And again, I had a really good experience there. I played for Didier Oriana, who's now coaching Division II at Bloomsburg. Bluefield, actually, I think it's called now.
Bloomfield. We know
Bloomfield.
Yeah, well, his brother, right? Carlos Del Cid is over here at NYIT. We know
NYIT. We used to play them in preseason. That was the preseason match. He always had it set up and scheduled. The funny part was that NYIT, obviously Division II, they were a few days ahead of us in preseason. So the only way for us to figure out that setup was we would play on like day 2 of preseason. So we got thrown in right away. Didier had no problem doing that to us, and certainly we played well, and it was a good experience for us. So, but admittedly, when I got there, I was part of Didier's first full recruiting class, so it was part of a rebuild. And my freshman year, we went 5-10-2, and by the senior year, we were 13-5-1. So it was a really good experience, I think, going through. Now that I think about being a coach, what it took to get through the rebuild process, what it took for us to be really successful. And one of my best experiences was senior year. We had a stretch where we went 9 games between goals allowed. So that was like a really special time as a player, just to see like all the hard work come together. We went 10 games unbeaten. We set some school records at the time. I think some of them have been broken since, but looking back on it, it was a special season for us, and that was a good time. So that's kind of my playing career.
Tell us a little bit about how you got into coaching, why you got into coaching, some interesting stops along the way, and then lead us into how you got in on the women's side.
Definitely. So coaching was quite honestly not in the plans. I was the player in college that I participated in our spring season as a senior. And then when, I just wanted to play, keep playing. And when spring season ended, it kind of hit me that I hadn't been looking for jobs yet. I was still kind of hanging on to the soccer thing. So I went back to Saratoga, and the coach that I played for in high school and had worked with club over the summers, he needed an assistant coach for the varsity program at Saratoga High School. So he called me up, heard I was back in the area, asked me if I wanted to join. So it was almost a fluke. I didn't seek it out. He called me, and it took literally 3 days for me to figure out that this is what I wanted to do. It was just seeing the game in a whole different light on the coaching side. It was awesome. Certainly helped that we had a good team to start. We won the section championship that year. That would have been the fall of 2010. So we won the sections. We sent 4 or 5 guys to Division I programs. Wow. We had a couple guys go to Binghamton. We had a player go to Syracuse. So it was a really good group, and that really kind of sparked my desire to coach. From there, I got into college. I was an assistant coach on the men's side at Elmira College, and that was an awesome experience for me. It was a graduate assistant program, so I also got my master's degree done and knocked that out, which was important to me to continue my education. But the awesome thing was that Elmira paid for it. So it was one of those kind of full-service GA programs, which was awesome. I highly suggest if you get into coaching down the road, to look into those types of GA programs. It's a great experience to get your master's, and it's a great experience as an assistant. And there I worked for a guy named Jeremiah Nealon, who has since been my mentor. From there, we both went to Skidmore College in Saratoga. Jeremiah got the head job. I stayed at Elmira to finish my master's, and was the interim head coach at Elmira for the spring of what would have been 2013. So that was a cool experience right off the bat, kind of unplanned. But I ran their spring season, took them on the spring play date. Certainly Division III has certain spring rules, but we went up to Rochester Institute of Technology. We played a couple of games. I got to run the program in that sense, so that was fun. Wow. But then I went to Saratoga, which is awesome because I grew up there, and Skidmore's a great program, great school, and a great conference. So I was the assistant there for 3 years. We went to 2 Liberty League championships. We had a nationally ranked program at the time I was there. So it was a really good experience. Jeremiah's taught me a lot. And then from there, I took the head coaching job on the men's side at the Sage Colleges in Albany. And we had a really good group. In 3 years, we made 2 conference championships again. I'm still trying to kind of break through that conference final. My first year at Sage, we went to the Skyline Conference Final. And we lost in overtime. So golden goal scenario, that was tough, but the guys played really hard. It was a great game. And then the next year, it was a unique experience too. We changed conferences. So we went from the Skyline to the Empire 8. And in our first year in the Empire 8, we went 10-6-2 and went to the conference finals in that conference. So it was a really unique experience for me as a head coach to get to 2 straight conference finals in 2 different conferences. Had a great group, had like 8 all-conference guys in that team. It was a fun group to coach. But we lost to a great program in Stevens Tech in New Jersey. They scored with I think it was 16 seconds left in regulation. So that was a tough way to go. But awesome learning experiences as a coach. So then after 3 years at Sage, I took the coaching job here at Wesleyan University. And for me, it's always been just kind of a desire to climb the ladder in terms of playing level, conference level, and certainly the NESCAC in the D3 world is wildly considered the best conference in the country. Certainly not just for the academics, but for the athletics as well. So my philosophy on coaching and recruiting certainly has always been that the school needs to have a good niche to really build the best classes. And that's what we have at Wesleyan, the high academic. We've got the best conference in the country. So it's a good formula for us to recruit to. And it's been an awesome experience. This was my first season. We went 9-5-2. We were nationally ranked for 5 weeks this season. We got as high as number 21 in the country. Just a really good season, and it's been a good experience so far.
How is it making that transition from the boys' side coaching to the women's side?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's a question I get a lot. For me, the group I have has made it really easy, but I also think the level that we are at in the NESCAC and at Wesleyan has also made it easy. I mean, I'm working with and coaching some of the best D3 women in the country, and that's made it really, really fun. And I also always say that the game itself is more similar, boys and girls, than in a lot of other sports. You look at lacrosse, where the rules actually change. Even in ice hockey, there's no hitting in women's ice hockey. The rules of the game don't change. For most of it, the tactics don't change. The tactics change based on what your team can do, regardless of if it's a boys team or a girls team or a men's team or a women's team. So I think the transition for me has been really smooth. I've enjoyed the recruiting on the women's side a little bit more, I think. They're just so eager to get through the process. They want the information. They're engaging. So it's been really, really fun doing that stuff, and I've enjoyed that transition.
How is the recruiting at Wesleyan? What's a student athlete that you're looking for? What's the style of player? The academics obviously are extremely high. How does that recruiting process go for you at Wesleyan specifically?
Yeah, so like you said, Wesleyan is very high academic. I think right now on the National Liberal Arts rankings list, we're number 12 in the country for liberal.
My goodness.
So obviously the academics comes first when it comes from a recruiting standpoint. The players have to be academically fit to get through the admissions process. At the Division III level, we are not admissions counselors, so we can't guarantee acceptance. But we have our avenues to help get them through the process, and we work very closely with admissions counselors. I think the nice thing at Wesleyan is we have a designated women's soccer admissions liaison. So we work specifically with one coordinator to work with our players, which is nice. It's a kind of a streamlined approach. And then obviously once they get into their admissions process, they work with the department, but we have one point person to work with. So first and foremost, we have to find that academically fit student. And then from a playing perspective, I think the nice thing that the high academics allows us to do is find and develop the problem-solving player, right? Just combination between the high academic and the soccer IQ. So there seems to be a link there where we can give our players only certain information, and then we let them problem solve so that the information sinks in. So when we watch players, the way I look at it recruiting-wise, I kind of generalize it as impact on the game. So what's your impact on the game for the 30 minutes or 40 minutes I get to watch you play? And you can impact the game on the ball, off the ball, if it's communication, organizing, work rate, those types of things. But for us, it's the impact. How influential are you to your team? And I think we're at a place right now in our program too where we are not really interested in taking players and taking them away from their natural characteristics. We want to take that player and fit them into the program. So if you're a really hardworking wide midfielder, we're not necessarily going to bring you in and ask you to play center back because you might be fast and athletic. We think that the players can be more confident and comfortable in their kind of natural characteristics, and I think they're going to do better for it. So we take our time in the recruiting process. It's very detailed. I will say the one thing that the admissions process allows us to do at Wesleyan is take our time because of the academic requirements, right? Like we have to establish academic progress over time. So a lot of our classes are usually filled out right around the summer. May, June, July is when we finish up our recruiting process. So it allows us to take our time, evaluate players more than once. Usually it's 2 or 3 times. But I think that combination of a high academic player and then the quality of the player that wants to come to our institution is making our program really, really strong.
That's incredible. I know that conference is tremendous. Academics are through the roof. It's a high profile school and a high profile conference, man. That's great. I envy you for that stuff. So a lot of different experiences for you, right? Player, coach, coaching boys and women's, head coach, assistant coach. If you wanted to leave us with a bit of advice, right? Or a certain mentality or a certain focus, what would it be for those parents or players or families, people like myself, that would be a good point for on the women's side with a school like Wesleyan? What would be a point of reference or advice, all encompassing, you'd want to leave us with?
Yeah, I think what I would tell players and parents too, certainly, is don't be afraid to hear no. Go after what you want. And if you hear no along the way, I just don't subscribe to there's one perfect school for every player. There are a ton of perfect schools for every player. So go after what you think you want and don't be afraid to hear no if they're not ready to go down that path with you, because there are going to be 2, 5, 10 great options for every player out there. But if you don't shoot for the moon, you're never going to get there. So you could go out and seek out the best program in the country, and they might say yes. You know what I mean? So you have to try, be proactive, go out and try to go after what you want. And if they say no, that's okay, because there's a ton of different options after that. And just because you didn't hit your first choice, you're still going to be very, very happy with wherever you land. So that would be my advice, certainly for the parents too, because I know in my process recruiting and certainly on the women's side, the parents are very much involved in it. We have communication streams that go directly to the parents that have nothing to do with the players. And I think they need to be comfortable hearing things like no, so that they can better guide where their player and where their kids should be going. And it's a negative word, but it's, at the end of the day, we just all are looking for the best fit. Parents, players, coaches, even down to like the club soccer, right? Club coaches and club teams are just looking for the best fit for their team. It's not always right or wrong or best or worst. It's just, how do we all fit this thing together? So that's my takeaway for you guys, certainly in the recruiting process, if that's what we're talking about. But I think it applies on a wider scale.
I fully agree. Words of wisdom. I think it's fantastic. I can tell you, no came my way plenty of times. So I think that's great. Keith, pleasure having you a part of this. Thanks for everything. Have a great season. Looking forward to the fall, right? Make sure that we'll keep an eye on you and how things are going. Stay safe, stay well, right? We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott.